The Walt Disney Company has come under fire again, this time getting a lawsuit for age discrimination. Comments from coworkers seem to indicate that this woman was viewed as too old to work at the Walt Disney Company. What's interesting is she's actually younger than Bob Iger. Let's talk about this new lawsuit on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is Mr. VashSky. Vash, young man, there's no need to feel down. You're on That Park Place today.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Hopefully I'm not too young or too old.
Too old to begin the training. Anyway, let's talk about this one. 101-year-old Disney accused of age discrimination and retaliation in fired 73-year-old business analyst's lawsuit. This out of Deadline and Dominic Patton. Oh, this is fascinating to me. The optics are pretty lousy when a company run by a 73-year-old man cans a nearly 20-year employee as she hits 73 and then attempts to call it a retirement on paper. There's a little switcheroo there for Disney. Yet, according to former longtime Disney business analyst Deborah Violante, that is exactly what happened to her at the Bob Iger-led Mouse House last year, after apparently repeated efforts to get an explanation from her managers and Disney HR, and even getting offered a job back at the company similar to the position she held from 2005 to 2023, Violante is taking Disney to court in a 20-claim wrongful termination, discrimination, and retaliation lawsuit, which you can all go read if you want to go check out that article. As you would expect from a business analyst, Violante has receipts. Violante was approximately 55 years old when she first became employed by Disney, reads the July 23rd filing in Los Angeles County Superior Court. Violante had been doing contractor work for Disney since 2002 when she was brought into the Magic Kingdom full time. I'm thinking that Magic Kingdom is probably talking about the company itself and not the park. Thereafter, she remained employed by Disney for 18 years. The jury trial seeking complaint seeks a variety of damages and injunctive relief. As Violante got older, she became subject to a campaign of discrimination and harassment based on her age. The 34-page document from employment law specialists, there's the name of the firm, goes on to claim. Then after Violante became injured and needed to take time off, Disney expedited its plans to terminate her and used the pretext of a mass layoff to terminate Violante from the company based on her age and disability. When Violante was 73 years old, Disney boldly and illegally, unilaterally retired Violante from the company, even though she had never asked to retire and never authorized anyone to retire her. This is interesting here. I'm not yet familiar with retirement procedures at a Fortune 500 company from the retirees' perspective. I don't know what the difference between there's such a brain drain at corporations across the United States that even when people retire, they usually list them as retire, like really retire, or retire for rehire, as in they bring them in as a contractor because all of the college kids that they failed to train don't actually know how to do the job here. This is a fascinating idea to me that she was laid off, but listed not as a layoff, but as a retirement person here. I don't know if that's restructuring costs or what. Vash, do you have any thoughts there?
It's fascinating. Apparently, so she's claiming that she was part of the first round of layoffs in 2023. Is that right?
I think you're right. Now, of course, the Disney company has gone through so far 8,000, maybe more, being laid off since Bob Iger returned to the company. You know, when Bob Chapek said that they were going to lay everybody off, that was not acceptable. So they wanted somebody nicer to be the person in charge of the layoffs there. So they called in Bob Iger for it.
And remember, we've heard rumors to the effect of maybe Bob Iger, maybe not looking at seniority in the same way that maybe other established firms or companies might. It was a little bit of a little bit of a red flag in Bob Iger's mind if you emphasized how long you may have worked at the company. And perhaps this, pushing out of people like this maybe is a thing over there. I'm not quite sure. I always thought he had a thing against seniority, but apparently he has a thing against seniors, perhaps as well.
That's true, and he does like to prance around like he is about 20 years younger than he is. I've never seen him literally prance, but it does come up in interviews constantly how young and spry he is for his age. Right here, let's continue on, though. Especially having been a much rewarded employee expecting voluntary retirement at some point down the line, Violante details in her legal action how things started to spoil after she was one of the last members of her department to be brought back from the company's pandemic furlough in 2020. Besides being denied overtime, even as she put in lots of extra time to catch up on the backlog from the furlough, Violante says she was blunted and delayed over and over in her need to use some of her vacation time to get much needed knee surgery. That's not a good look for the company anyways, for someone to need surgery and not be able to take time off to get it. After Violante lost that banked vacation time, oh, there you go. So she was entitled to a benefit and was not allowed to take it because of the refusal to grant Violante any time off. The whole thing blew up. Her colleague, Robert Jeff Downs, who would be addled with most of the plaintiff's duties if she was to be out of the Burbank offices, lashed out in the late spring of 2023 with, "When are you going to retire?" And there's the smoking gun right there. If that is true, which I'm going to guess that this probably was delivered via message. If it happened in person, this is going to be he said, she said. But that right there shows discrimination from a fellow employee, allegedly. Here. I think that's going to be a problem. And obviously it's coming up here in the complaint. If this goes to court, which it probably won't, I think Disney will try to settle this in order to keep it out of the public's purview here. That will come up in court if this goes to court.
Yeah, I mean, there's reason enough to be seeking a jury as well in this, because you hear that's no go right there. Also, too, denying people access to their vacation time for medical procedures, that's also going to be something that a jury wouldn't take kindly to, I would imagine. And that quote right there, that is really, really something. And Jonas, we have seen a couple of high profile ladies in the Walt Disney Company be shown the door for a multitude of reasons right here. Age discrimination? There might be something here.
Yeah, I think there is. And plus Disney tends to, as you referenced before, Vash, they don't like people who have been there a long time at the company saying, well, this is how it's happened for a long time. Whether or not this is a person that started in 2005, which is the same year that Bob Iger became the CEO. So she is, as many things that Bob Iger values more than the Disney brand, she is an Iger era person here. So this is just fascinating. Here's a comment on that comment. This comment was clearly age-related and also evidenced an animus towards Violante's medical needs and limitations, the filing says of Downs and the then 100-year-old company. Disney's mistreatment of and animus towards Violante was so brazen as to be observed by other cast members, causing one of them to confide in Violante that it appears Disney wants her to quit or retire. Things look to go from bad to worse as the parent company of the happiest place on earth when Violante suddenly was pink-slipped in May 22nd of 2023. The firing was part of the recently reinstated multi-phase cuts of 7,000 staffers as part of Iger's overall $5.5 billion in cost savings plan to pump up Disney stock. Yep, and so far that plan has not gone well. Looking at the stock price recently hasn't shown much gain compared to when he came back to the company. I think it was at 80, and right now it's at about 89. So they've spent a lot of money. They fired a lot of people to try to get the stock price up, and all they're left with is a bunch of angry former employees.
Well, and more than maybe is listed here, we know that maybe at least 8,000 staffers have been cut. And also, too, I think that number is $7.5 billion. I think it started at 5.5, but I think Iger adjusted that target. So they have cut considerably at every single level. I actually know somebody who knows somebody who was actually part of this 8,000 cuts right here, or was very salty about that, as one could probably imagine. But this is intolerable. If these allegations are true, which, oh man, I'd like to see the discovery list on this one to see maybe who knew or maybe what emails or documents laid this out. This is fascinating right here. I think a jury would be, like I said before, would be very sensitive to all this.
Yep. And here's where it gets, well, let's say even juicier. Learning she was the only member of her department to be let go, Violante pushed back in the few weeks she had left on the job. Disney seemed to ignore her and actually was treating her exit as a retirement until the words age discrimination joined the conversation. Now Disney pushed back Violante's exit date and acknowledged in static bureaucratic jargon in September of 2023 that it was an involuntary separation due to a reduction in force. Around the same time, the increasingly fragile Violante's physicians placed her on a disability leave until October 8th of 2023. However, oh man, that's just rough. I'm going to say something if that's age related here. If you have a 73-year-old who is asking to take time off for medical leave, you should give them that time off. Also, I've been in departments, and I think that I can say this because this person does not know that I'll be talking about them. But there was a person that I worked with that was older and working for a company for a very long time. And after a certain age, you could not be fired at the company. There was a waiting for you to retire plan. It was a fascinating policy to have on the books, probably to avoid age discrimination moments here. They would always be the first to be on the list whenever voluntary retirement was offered. Maybe they would get a little bit sweeter of a voluntary retirement package here, yeah. But the company did not want to be known as someone who abandons their older employees when they get to a certain age. Also, it was a company that had, again, those brain drain issues that are happening in the United States here. So this is just so classless and corporate on Disney's part, if all of this is true.
Well, Jonas, I have seen a couple of these disability cases actually firsthand. I've seen this kind of thing. I mean, to walk somebody out at around the time that maybe her physicians were recommending disability, that's a real bad look for the company. Think about it. You were trying to maybe get rid of her in order to not pay out that disability pay there. Oh, that ain't gonna play well in California, that's for sure.
Yep, I would totally agree. Now, we don't have a lot of time left in this video, but I do want to point out a couple of items. First of all, Disney did not respond to Deadline's request for comment on Tuesday on Violante's lawsuit. Speaking of retirement, Iger looks to be hanging on at Disney until he is at least 75 years old. So, Bob Iger, age is not a problem for him. Maybe this is a difference in perceived health. You also cannot fire someone for their perceived health issues here, depending. Disney's conclusions about reasons for her termination were strange for several reasons. First, despite Violante informing Disney that she had suffered numerous hurtful comments and innuendo regarding age, questioning when I am going to retire, no one at Disney ever asked her about the comments or the identity of the person who had made them. So how could Disney truly reach the conclusion that the reason for the termination was not discriminatory? So they made no effort, it appears, to try and investigate discrimination in the workplace. And also they seem to, in a de facto way, agree, according to these comments, with the idea that she is too old to work there, according to the alleged Disney employees here. This is just a tragedy to me, and I think this is something that Disney could have handled a lot better. Obviously, if any of this is true, I think there's probably something to it. I think that Disney will also be settling this out of court. We're not going to be so lucky as to have this go to discovery as we are with the Gina Carano lawsuit, as that one appears. We would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below on this. We're going to add this one to the pile of Disney lawsuits that seem to be just stacking up higher and higher and higher. We had thought about doing a live stream just covering lawsuits and bringing in a legal expert like Ron Coleman or perhaps Andrew from the Legal Mindset. But right now, that seems like it would be better suited for 2 or 3 live streams, because I think it would get boring going through all of the lawsuits going on right now. But what's your favorite lawsuit that Disney's going through right now? Let us know your thoughts on that in the comment section down below. Like this video if you like this video. And of course, consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.